Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. My name is Olga Atamanova, and it's year 9 of the war and day 338 of the full-scale invasion of the Russian aggressor in our land. Joining us in this studio is Iurii Ihnat, the spokesperson of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Iurii. I would like to start our conversation with yesterday's massive missile strike that Russians inflicted on our territories. Our air defense forces worked perfectly, and we appreciate it. Well, we want to thank everybody who works to save our lives. 47 missiles were destroyed, so let's talk about this. Where did the Russians made it? What were the regions where they managed to inflict some damage? Well, as to the regions, military administrations already report about that. Unfortunately, we have casualties, and we want to extend our condolences to everybody who suffered, who were affected by those Russian strikes. There was also a simultaneous drone attack yesterday. 24 drones were destroyed. Those during the New Year night, we destroyed 45 drones. On the next night, from 1st to 2nd January, we destroyed 39 drones. Which means that Russians don't manage to achieve any success in this regards, but they keep using the Iranian-made drones. They want to exhaust our air defense forces with the cheaper UAVs that we have to spend our ammunition on. They want to exhaust our material. They want to exhaust our people, and they identify the positions of the air defense forces as they lose the connection, as they lose communication with the drone which is being shut down. So they banally just identify the position. So basically what they do is reconnaissance. Well, as to the cruise missiles that were launched, it was 55 of them, including Kinzhal. 2 of them were used in this attack. We know what kind of missiles are those. Unfortunately, we cannot identify them in a timely manner, and we cannot shut them down. Also, there were guided aviation missiles, X-59. 3 of them didn't reach their targets, so we can add them to those shut down. However, unfortunately, we have the aftermath of those Kinzhal targets. Air defense forces worked well. It was one of their best results because the number of missiles was pretty big. X-555, X-101, they were all destroyed. We used different units. First of all, it's surface-to-air missile units. Buk M1, S-300, S-125, NASAMS, and Iurii that we have today, the Western weapons that work very efficiently. Also, we engage the units of military aviation and fire teams which destroy the air targets quite efficiently, well, and as well as other defense forces which were engaged in countering the Russian missiles. So now we observe that the more air targets are being destroyed right near the front lines. Well, what is it related to? Well, it's Kyiv and Kyiv region that is mostly affected by their air raid terrorism. Is the heart of the country. And in the front lines, the air targets that are being the enemy air targets that are being shut down in the front lines, they are Sukhov 25 and Mi-8, Ka-52 helicopters, because we also we engage our army aviation, which inflicts serious damage on the enemy, maybe inflicting maybe up to 15 air strikes on the enemy forces. So thanks to the mastership of our pilots and to the proper operation of our military command. We don't have such negative results as Russia has. We've heard some positive news recently. A couple of days in a row, there was a very positive statistics of enemy aircraft, enemy air targets downed 1, 2, maybe 3 per day. Well, there is a certain intensification in of the warfare in Bakhmut area. Thus, the enemy supports their so-called death troops, which keep coming and which are being constantly eliminated there. So they try to support their forces with their aviation. Well, they keep bringing these Wagner troops, which are being eliminated just as well as their army aviation. Well, lately all the branches of our government take all the efforts about so that we can be provided with F-16 fighter jets. So in case we get them, how much time will we need to train the pilots? Well, the F-16 topic is not new. We were talking about the multi-purpose jet. We were talking about Rafale, for example. There was a proposal from France. We have to work through that issue as well. So negotiations were in progress for pretty extended period. Well, and we were talking about different types of fixed-wing aircraft, F-15, F-16. It was all considered for a very long time. There were many delegations by diplomats and higher military command. So we were on the cutting edge of these negotiations. Even our pilots, they were coming to the United States, where they were communicating with the senators, congressmen. They were looking them right in the eye, so that they were expressing the need for those fighter jets, and it helped a lot on the way to our victory and for liberation and the occupation of our homeland. And this is the matter which is interesting to everybody. But what you've been asking about the periods for training, it's not something that is acceptable to us, because we need to have our pilots trained in the shortest period possible. We were communicating with the pilots, and they were saying we were already trying to fly those aircraft. We can master them in a couple of weeks. We can take off, we can land, but there's a whole different thing, like using all types of weapons borne by that. For example, F-16, it's a fixed-wing aircraft which can inflict strikes on the ground targets with different types of weapons, bombs, cruise missiles. It can become a part of air defense forces, which can protect us against cruise missiles, as well as from enemy fixed-wing and rotary-wing aircraft. F-16 is one of the most popular models throughout the world, and it could be the best candidate for Air Force to become the basic fixed-wing multi-purpose aircraft. Now we have 4 of them. We have Sukhov 27, 29 fighter jets. Sukhov 35 is the bomber, and we have also an assault jet. So F-16 could join all these functions. Or do we have already the team of pilots that are supposed to undergo such training? Well, the list of pilots is ready for it's been prepared for a long time. The Air Force commander already approved it, but again, I have to emphasize that it's not only about about pilots, it's about the maintenance teams as well, because the sky, it doesn't let you commit any mistakes, any errors. So we have to train the engineers that could do maintenance on the ground, the scheduled maintenance and emergency maintenance and repair. So we will have to launch all this system to make sure the pilots, they fulfill their mission. Their tasks are, their duties are very serious. We have to prepare the airfield infrastructure so that pilots could land safely on the strips, on the airstrips. So the works are in progress in different regions of Ukraine with the support of the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ministry of Defense, and other government agencies to support us in creation of this airfield network. Maybe it cannot be done as well as it would have been done in the peacetime, but in future the military airfield, just like it is done all over the world, they can be jointly used by both military and civil aircraft. There is such practice which is very popular throughout the world, and it can be yet another movement of Ukraine towards the civilized world. And well, it's quite normal. Well, another topic which is very interesting to us, we expect the Patriots to arrive to us, which will reinforce the air defense capabilities of our country. So how prepared are you to training? Well, Patriots will come together with other types of weapons, because the list of weapons approved during the last Rammstein is quite ambitious. I was asked today what's my evaluation of that list. So I said that we have to see what's the assessment by Kiselov and Skabeyeva. They were the first to evaluate it, and we appreciate it. The list is very good, and now it should be implemented. It's the matter of time and training. Now our military are studying in Oklahoma to work on Patriot. It's quite a complicated system. The period of training will be longer than with NASAMS and Iurii, but we have our guys. They are very ambitious, motivated. They're young servicemen. I'm not going to make a mystery of it. I was there. It's a very up-to-date system that can work in automatic, semi-manual, and manual mode for the destruction of air targets. So the matter is it's a matter of time and amount now so that we want to switch to the Western types of weapon systems. Now we keep using the Soviet era things that are manufactured by Russia, which we won't be able to use in the future. Well, I think that nobody in the world will have such a wide range of air defense systems like NASAMS, Iurii, Patriot. There is also the air defense capabilities like Rafale, which are being received by our infantry, German Jeopards. So yes, we are being reinforced, and it will be happening gradually, so we have the most efficient air defense system probably in the world. So talking about Iurii, which is already in the ranks of our air defense forces, can it destroy ballistic targets? Well, we have to try. Theoretically, a lot of people in their YouTube channels, you know that there is a big number of experts now in YouTube channels. For example, that they say it's no problem, but X-22 missile, can we destroy it? The Air Force commander makes a statement that we didn't shut down any single X-22, but some people emerge who say like, yeah, but guys, you can't do this. And I don't understand why these people who supposedly support Ukraine, why do they keep making such statements? Well, unfortunately, for the time being, we cannot do this. X-22, they say it's a cruise missile, but it flies with a ballistic trajectory with a speed of 5,000 kilometers per hour, and we only have basically 40 seconds for target acquisition and destruction of it. So Iurii and NASAMS, they can work in automatic mode, so theoretically we can try to shut the type of targets down, but their main purpose is destruction of aerodynamic targets. They are UAVs, helicopters, and fixed-wing aircraft. If they turn out to be in a necessary place, in necessary manner, but what we need is actually SAMP-T and Patriot to destroy the ballistic targets. Dear colleagues, if anybody has any questions, please. Good afternoon, Ukrinform. Lately, there are pictures and videos spread around the internet where the air defense systems are being installed on the roofs of different administrative buildings in Russia, all across the country. Well, does it make any sense to install it so it's visible and so that everybody sees the process of installation and process of deployment? Well, this Panzer system, it may be wheel or caterpillar based, but it actually looks very funny. You can deploy air defense systems all around the place, and this Panzer, it has both air defense cannons and rockets, which are used to shut down the air targets. The Russians are afraid that something would be coming their way, and there is a practice all around the world of deployment of such systems, not in such a barbaric manner, because there are module systems just like this Tribune. There is a joint machine, multi-barrel machine guns which work in automatic mode. I was talking about NASAMS and Iurii that acquires the target and destroys it automatically. So it's a module system. Maybe you've seen it in the movies. It's a last hope weapon when all the other air defense systems miss it. And you see when the building of a Ministry of Defense can be defended with the help of those machine guns, supposedly. So Russia goes a very blunt way, and they deploy the whole system on the roof of their Ministry of Defense. So another thing is that efficiency on that altitude may be not so high, because the drone may fly lower, so it has more like a propaganda effect for population which is being prepared for further mobilization. Everybody has to see the tanks, the Panzer systems deployed on the roofs, but I have doubts about their efficiency. Thank you. Any more questions, dear friends?
Cristian Segura from the Spanish newspaper El País. I would like to ask you if you could tell us approximately how many jet fighters or planes do you think can make a difference to be received from your Western allies? This is the first question. And the second question is, last September, I think, it was James Hecker is the commander for the United States Air Force in Europe and Africa. He said that he considers that it is extremely difficult to have ready the F-16 for Ukraine in not only in 2023 but also 2024. I would like to know if do you think that the priority for your army is to get, for example, Soviet jet fighters still available in Eastern European countries like Poland? Thank you.
Розумію. Одразу давайте почнемо з літаків.
Okay, let's start right with the Polish and Czech fixed wing aircraft. They actually are worse in terms of technologies comparing to Russian aircraft. I'm talking about MiG-29, but they did play their definitive role thanks to the mastership of our pilots. And this MiG-29 fixed wing aircraft, they're not so different from those that we have. What Poland gave us, they were not the fixed wing aircraft, but the spare parts, so we could repair the aircraft available to us. We have very good aircraft repair facilities, but we cannot manufacture the aircraft. So with donorship we can pick, for example, the engines, the cockpits, the elements of the cockpit, and the elements of the hull. It was taken from the donors. As to the Slovakian aircraft, it was not so big number of them, and they can become the repair base. And there is appreciation from the command to those countries that support us. But any reinforcement of the Soviet era MiG-29 airplanes, it helps us a lot actually, because those guys, they work on a daily basis in the front lines, and MiG-29, they fulfill their battle tasks supporting our infantry in the east of Ukraine. The fighter jets, we adapted anti-radar HARP missiles, and they support the assault aviation in inflicting strikes on the ground targets. But they do not exceed, unfortunately, Russian airplanes in their characteristics. But we cannot adapt the weapons which can be borne, for example, by F-16, which were tested by time, so to say. But anyway, we appreciate all that support, but provision, for example, of the air defense systems to Ukraine, it already caused very serious reaction in Russia, who were threatening with the nuclear strikes, but Slovakia never listened to them, and they provided us with what we have now. So MiG-29, if it becomes this repair kit, well, we were already provided by aviation in terms of helicopters and UAVs, for example, Bayraktar by Turkey. As to the F-16 or multi-purpose fighter jet, we were asking to close the skies, we were asking the world to close the skies from the very first day of the war, because Russia already flew in Ukrainian airspace and declaring the war de facto, and Ukraine was alone protecting its airspace, and we were asking to provide the aviation platforms that will help us in the occupation of our lands, and also in protection of our skies. So F-16 is something that complies with that requirement. F-16 can destroy cruise missiles and loitering drones. It would allow us to protect the critical infrastructure against the massive missile strikes, because the air defense systems that we have at the moment, it cannot cover all the territory of Ukraine. It's either mobile fire teams or fighter aviation. The issue of training of pilots is quite complicated. It takes time, maybe up to half a year. It's the optimistic forecast. Well, as I mentioned, it's easy to learn to fly and to take off and to land, but to maneuver and to use the weapons, it's a whole different thing, and the pilots say it may take maybe half a year. And the same story is with the engineers, with the maintenance teams. There are different thoughts, different opinions. The Ukrainian government, well, it's clear, would like to receive it in the shortest period possible. All the Ukrainians would actually want to receive this multi-purpose fighter jets, but okay, as I mentioned, what we need is the infrastructure, the training for maintenance teams, the training for pilots, and obviously the political resolution of the countries who can influence it. Thank you. Any more questions? Good afternoon. The website Gates of Ukraine in Arabic. The preparation for the defense of infrastructure, of the railways, bridges, what defense is available for these infrastructure facilities, because Russian propaganda says it will be some future targets, God forbid, of course. Yeah, we've heard the new statements. Well, yeah, the critical infrastructure is not only power plants, but as you mentioned, the bridges and railway hubs which are used for transportation of Western weapons to Ukraine, and the dams that were previously targeted by the enemy. All our military command knows about that. Well, as you drive along Ukraine, you can see how those types of facilities like bridges, how they are protected with surface-to-air missile systems, for example. I don't know if Russia has enough capabilities to destroy the bridges now that they don't even have capabilities to target our nuclear power plants. You see what's the amount of missiles remaining. Yeah, so it's a good question, by the way. For how long Ukrainians can live in this mode when almost on a weekly basis, every 7 to 10 days, we are affected by those massive missile strikes? How long will it last? Well, yes, we track the residues of Russian missiles. We may talk about different missiles, X-55, X-101, without the nuclear warheads that excuse me, I talk a lot, that we've seen some information on the internet recently about these nuclear warheads. So yeah, it's easier now. Thank you. So those the missiles from Soviet arsenal, like X-22, but it has a distance of up to 600 kilometers, and it's not precise. The possible error is like 600 meters. So they pose a threat, but they don't have the effect that other high precision missiles has, such as X-55 Iskander. So our intelligence already said, already mentioned that the Russian manufacture facilities cannot catch up with the intensity of use. So yes, now we have more like extended periods that Russia uses for terrorizing our country. Dear friends, do we have any more questions on the floor? Thank you very much for this information. Thanks you for finding time to join our broadcast. I'm reminding you, joining us was Iurii Ihnat, the spokesperson of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Please follow our announcements. Our team is preparing the schedule for the next week, so bear with us and trust in our armed forces. Glory to Ukraine.